Hi guys! Today we're continuing with standard form. As a refresher, standard form is in the format of ax plus by equals c. In this form, the x and the y will stay letters, and the a, b, and c will be replaced with numbers. When we are finished with standard form, we have to double check a couple things. First, we need to make sure that everything is in the correct order, that it goes x, y, constant. Next, we need to make sure that all the numbers in the equation are integers. That means no fractions or decimals are allowed. And finally, we need to make sure that the first number in the problem is a positive number. That would be the number in front of x. For today's video, we will be writing standard form given 2 points. As we've done in all of our other lessons for this chapter, we will be using our slope formula for this question. Since we were given two ordered pairs, we will start with the regular slope formula, and we will use it for what it was intended to be used for, and that is to find slope. So we will plug in our ordered pairs, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So in this problem, that's 3 minus 5 over -1 minus 0. For my slope, I get -2 over -1. I can simplify that a little bit. So when you have that double negative, that does cancel out to become a positive slope. So I am going to rewrite my slope as just 2 over 1 instead of a negative and another negative. Once we have found our slope, we're going to use next our modified slope formula, which is where we get rid of the little number 2's. In this problem, I will be using my first ordered pair for my x1 and my y1. And the slope that I just calculated right now for my letter m. And then don't forget the y and the x at the beginning of the fraction stay letters. This is what my modified slope formula looks like. From here, we're going to cross multiply. I always like to write my y first, so I'm going to do 1 times y minus 5, and then 2 times x minus 0. We will be distributing. After distributing, your next step, no matter what the directions are, your next step is always going to be to move the constant away from the letter y. So I'm going to add 5 over here. Now, again, don't get tricked in this question. This is a very well-known equation. This is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And so we have a tendency to stop here because we're like, oh, I recognize that, and this looks good to me. But if we look back up at our directions and it says to write it in standard form, we cannot stop here. We need to keep going until we get ax plus by equals c. So it's going to be really, really important that you are reading the directions on all of the assignments and that you are writing your equations in the right formats. So today we're writing equations in standard form, which means we need to do at least one more step. My next step is going to be to take my letter x and move it to the other side with the letter y. And again, we do have to write it in that very specific order. So I'm going to put the -2x first, and then the positive y, and then it's going to equal the 5 on the other side. Now I've got it in the right order for standard form. My x is first, my y is second, my constant is on the other side of the equal sign. I've got no fractions or decimals, so that's fantastic. But there is one little rule about standard form that I've not quite accomplished yet, and that is my first number is supposed to be positive, and currently my first number is negative. It is just for the first number. I don't care about any other numbers in the problem. But the fact that the first number is negative means I need to do one more step. And that is, I'm going to need to multiply the entire equation by -1. You will distribute this to everything in the equation, and essentially it's just going to change all the signs. So it's going to make that a positive 2x. It's going to make that a minus y. And it's going to make that a -5. And so my final answer for this question is 2x minus y equals -5. Let's do one more together just for good measure. So again, I'm going to start with my slope formula, and I'm going to use it for what it was intended to be used for, which is I'm going to find slope. In this question, I'm doing 2 minus 3 and 1 minus -3. And then don't forget, minus a negative can turn into plus positive. And so my slope for this question is -1/4. This one only had one negative sign, so I cannot simplify it anymore. And I am going to keep that negative symbol attached to the top number. Next, we'll be using the modified slope formula, which is where we get rid of the number 2's, and we leave those first 2 letters actual letters. I'm going to use my first ordered pair and the slope that I just calculated and plug it into here. And then remember, this stays a y, this stays an x, everything else gets replaced with numbers. From here, we will cross multiply. I like to write my y first, so I'm going to do 4 times the y minus 3, and then -1 times the x plus 3. Next, we will distribute. My next step always is to move my constant away from the letter y. So I'm going to add the 12 to the other side. Now here, we have a choice on what we can do next. And so before we choose what to do next, we want to, again, go back up and read the directions. And we want to remember ax plus by is equal to c. And so this is what my final format wants to look like. And based on this information, and based on the fact that I don't want any fractions or decimals, I'm going to choose for my next step to move my x to the other side. Now, if we were doing slope-intercept form, we would have made a different choice for the next step. So again, it's very important that you are aware of what the final answer should look like, and the final answer should look like this. I wrote my positive x first, and it was positive, so that's good. And then I wrote my positive 4y, and then it's equal to the 9. This concludes today's notes.